test. Banana, banana. Test, test, test. Test 1, 2. Banana, test the song. Okay, thank you. Welcome everybody to the Roundtable session. This is particularly important for me because we as Inércia organization have been struggling with how to get a sustainable community to help us organize stuff. Because usually it's me organizing Inércia, or it's Gino organizing Inércia, or me and him organizing Inércia at the same time. And we always like hands and people, and it's hard to grow. Even though people see the value in what you're trying to do, it's hard for them to have the free time, the motivation to help us. So we need to find strategies on how to grow the community. We've been trying to do this for over 20 years since we were kids. We gave up, we came back, and now we're giving another strive. We have some ambitious ideas that I want to show with the rest of the audience, and all of them have a very good background and knowledge in different areas, different kind of communities, and I think we will have a very interesting discussion on how to leverage that kind of stuff. So I'll first introduce all of our guests. I guess I'll start with the right side. João Ramos from the Load ZX Museum in Cantanhede. He created the museum 4 years ago? Yeah, 4 years ago, and out of an ambitious project. Actually, maybe you can give a little introduction. Let's see if this microphone is working. Just give us a little introduction to the idea of how you created the museum and why.
So, hello everyone. A pleasure to be here once again. So, my first Inércia was last year, where I did a presentation on the museum. So, the museum started, as many other projects, as a personal collection that grew more than I could deal with. And so I was faced with a decision, which was either find a way to put this collection at the service of the community or basically start selling it. I thought as an entrepreneur, which is something that I believe I am, and I realized that the hardest part was to get a partner that could help with funding the project, so having the human resources, the building, and all of that. And I found that partner in the local city hall, and that's how the museum started. It started 4 years ago as a temporary exhibition in another museum. Then 3 years ago, it moved into a permanent location. It's the world's first museum dedicated to the ZX Spectrum. Of course, we are no longer kids, so we don't have any problem, and we have there Commodores, Amigas, Ataris, lots of machines. And nowadays, we even organize an event called Street Gaming, which basically puts all these kind of machines at the disposal of people, but in a non-competitive way. And that was a strategy we got to basically start putting some funds on the museum, which is
nice,
one of
very
the
nice.
challenges.
And it's a great example of how he had an idea, and then he tried to get a small group of friends to help him establish that idea. So I think he will have great insights on some of the questions that we will have later on. Next we have Celso. How the hell do I introduce you? He's like one of the original tech gurus of the internet in Portugal, founder of Sapo, and he also helped organize a lot of smaller events oriented to maker community, the big hacker conference that we had, Sapo Codebits, that then got rebranded to Pixelscamp. So we have a lot of experience on how to get the projects actually happening. So that's the main...
Thanks for the intro. I think I'm done. And glad to know that you have Commodores. Now I really have to go. Anyway, you said it all. I'm probably the oldest guy in the group. I've been around for a while, since the 80s, playing with computers like those ones over the corner. Went through amateur radio, BBSs, the beginnings of the internet in Portugal. And then, yes, I got involved into organizing a few events. We can talk about that. I can probably give you some advice, although I'd start by saying that a lot of it is context and where you are at the time that also matters, but we can talk about that.
It's more about connections, I think.
Networking is I think it's persistence, nurturing that network over the years is important, but we can talk about that.
Yep. Okay, then we have João Ramos. João Catarino, I'm sorry, I confused with him. He has a local makerspace here in Almada, Oficina de Almada, and you've been running it for how many years now?
6 years now.
6 years now, and
Yeah,
every time I talk with him, he says, "I have 2 little people to help me." He has great projects. He has a lot of community interesting projects. Please tell us summarily a little bit about the projects that you have.
So it just started as something on my mind. I said, well, there's a Fab Lab in Lisbon. No, not one. A lot of them in Lisbon. There are alt labs, there are Makerspaces everywhere, but in Almada there's nothing. Lately, I discovered that there was a Fab Lab in the faculty of the University of Nova.
At FCT, yeah.
Yeah. But it wasn't enough. People didn't know about it, and I was in the.
And it's not downtown because yours is right here. The other one's like you have to go all the way to the university.
And I said, well, we need a workshop to gather the old people from the old industries like shipyards and all that stuff. Because we have a rich community in artisans that they know the trades, the old trades that nobody teaches nowadays. So I said we need a place where we can get together, young and old, and share experience and do stuff like they do everywhere except in Almada. So I decided, well, let's start a community. Let's try to start a community, and I was convinced by someone from the municipality that if I create an association or a company, something legal, that I would have some support from them. And I was wrong. So
we were a bit more lucky as Associação in that regard.
So I started all by myself 6 years ago in 2018, almost 6 years. And I've been struggling to get people to work with me. It's difficult to explain to Portuguese people, common average people, the meaning of a maker. And when you say a maker or a makerspace is a place where you can build almost everything, almost anything, that's it.
I think there's someone there will build it for you.
But what does that mean? I don't understand the concept. Well, if you want to do something in 3D printing, you want to do something on a laser or electronics, learning electronics, basic electronics, or any other project that you want to prototype, so just come to this place and we will help you. As long as you have the tools and the knowledge, we will try to do something. But it's been a struggle, and this is why I ended up here.
Yeah,
share my knowledge.
And I think some of the questions that we'll try to answer, I think will help you a lot as well. So then I have with me Manuel Correia from Games by Manuel. He has a long experience doing independent video game development. He also worked for a few companies, and he does also board games. He's very known for doing board game prototyping and stuff like that. So he's here to give you the game dev perspective of the game dev community perspective on things. Anything in particular you want to address that I missed?
That was a good introduction. Yeah, I've been around communities related to making games, either digital or analog, for I think about 20 years. And I've seen some things work and others that don't, and I hope some of those come up in the conversation.
You also participated in associations for game developers, so that will be an interesting perspective as well on how they worked and how they failed and things like that.
Yes. I'm seeing actually, I was a part of one in Ireland. I followed it since it started, called Imert. And now that I'm back in Portugal, I'm in something similar here, but it's interesting to see the differences, and I think there's some lessons to learn from them.
Like cultural lessons?
Not just that, but we might get there. For example, one thing, having to pay a small membership, yearly membership, allowed us to make so many more things in Ireland, and there isn't such a thing here. So every time we want to do something,
there's no money.
We have to figure out how we're going to pay for it.
Yeah, that's a big problem, financing your stuff. Then we have Rory. Did I say that correctly?
You did, thank you.
He's originally Irish. He lives in the UK for quite a while now.
Yeah, I'm still Irish.
Still Irish. And he's been organizing a demo party in the UK. And the particularity is that when he started organizing demo party in the UK, there were no demo parties in the UK. So he had to rebuild the UK demo scene. And how many years has it been since the first Sundown?
That was in 2005.
2005, so
the first party I went to, I organized, so I had no clue what I was doing.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. So it's been a great journey, and we try to improve every year. So yeah, it's been good fun.
Okay. And then we have FRaNKy, which is a demo scene veteran. He's been around since the 80s. He's organizer of like 4 demo parties or something like that. Revision, transmission, RSync. What am I missing?
A lot.
A lot. All the other stuff in between.
Yeah, so I've been organizing demo parties since the late 90s. First we did a Belgian scene event, which was Amiga only. Then we went with the Rewired series for a few years. Then
Were you already orga at Wired 98?
No, Rewired, not
Ah,
Wired.
Rewired. Oh, yeah.
So Rewired and Wired have, except the coincidental name, have nothing to do with each other. No, Wired was PC and some stuff, and Rewired was everything. But my background is mostly C64, Amiga was a focus on that, but everything was welcome as long as it brings people into the door that pay for a ticket and drink at the bar to pay for the venue. And then RSync. Next RSync is coming up in 1 month, 5th and 6th of January in Leuven, across the train station, easy to get to, hint. And then, of course, next to it, the bigger parties, as you mentioned. Revision, main compo organizer, Assembly, I'm mostly the host for Assembly TV. And I'm forgetting, I've done Breakpoint, I was C64 organizer.
He's been around.
I've been doing too much stuff.
too much demo scene stuff.
Yeah.
So you have a good insight on how the demo scene has been developing and how it could get better. So I will now tell you my vision for Associação Inércia, which I've been sharing with Gino, and it's something that we're trying to propose to the City Hall. So we want to organize a demo party every year, obviously. We need more help in terms of organization. This space is amazing, the space that they got us this year, for example. It's great. It saved us a lot of money that they got us this space. Otherwise, we probably would have gone for a smaller hall. We can still fill it up. We can still get more people, more projects involved. We need more volunteers to help us during the event. We grew the team a little bit, but we're still short in people. And then we need, new people showing up just to be a part of the audience. And that's also hard to do when it's a new culture that you're trying to talk about. You talk demo scene in Portugal, and everybody's like, what? I don't know what the hell is that. I never heard about that. So we're trying to, the purpose of the association is to promote the demo scene. And we have a few ideas on how we could do it. Approach schools, approach different places where we can go there, give a workshop, go to different events that happen, go there, give a talk about what is the demo scene, present to them, organize some events, maybe do some live shader coding or some live workshops, stuff like that. But then we are too little people to do all of that. You need to, not have work all the time, which sometimes is complicated, and you need to have rides, and sometimes there is no money to travel there. So there's a whole set of things. So I guess my first question goes to João. How the hell did you get a team to pop up, and how do you keep going? Take this one, or
you can.
One of that
one. I must say it's not a surprise, the question, and I also think about that. Let me just start by saying one thing. The phenomenon of the demo scene was kind of unknown to me 2 years ago or so. We met in a podcast you did, and then after that, both of us, I think, realized we should do more to help each other promoting the kind of things we were doing. The museum always tried to be an inclusive project, but a project that doesn't do everything on its own. It's not my view that everything that is on the museum needs to be done by me or some friend of mine. We have timelines of all these computers that were drawn by people in UK, and we have videos from another museum in UK that we ask their support to do it. So we try to we have a collector from Almada, a guy called Vasco Gonçalves, who collects the old pirated tapes that were typical in Portugal.
They were all pirated. There were no originals in Portugal.
But there are two types of pirate tapes. You have the ones that we had saying instructions in Portuguese with a fancy cover that mimic the original, and then you have the ones from the bigger houses that were doing this in thousands, and so they would have their own covers. So we have people collecting this, and I said, I want to have a wall on the museum with that, because people will go, they take a selfie, people will, they go there and they say, oh, I'm from Almada, I used to buy on this store and this store, oh, there's one missing there. So this is an example that I always referred in the first interviews in the museum, because I wanted to show people that we were incorporating other people's ideas but pushing them, but making them, giving them more significance by integrating everything. Now, trying to answer your question, how did we do it? I think there are 2 or 3 things in life that we learn, and in the internet that we learn, which is, first you need to give. So you need to show. You need to get something on the internet, you need to give something first. You give a white paper before you ask for the email or something like that. So you need to have something for that. And that's something I tried to do, which was all the things we did in the museum, they need to be seen as being of quality. That was a first message. Then, when you are dealing with something that has value, and the fact is we are helping to preserve the story of one that was, at least in Portugal, probably the first computer in the houses of many people, or almost many. I don't want to say everyone because Celso will complain, but he had a Spectrum before the Commodore. I was reading your blog just before. So, but what I mean is this: when you are dealing with a product that solves a kind of a need, a real need, things get easier. For example, Rui is over there, and he did an amazing job for us in the last Visual Games Week that he presented a robotic arm controlled by a Spectrum. He dedicated 1 year to that. Why does this happen? Because people want to get involved with the museum. Not because I'm a nice guy or not, it doesn't matter, but because the museum started as an idea of me, but became a project of the kind of the community. And that's the thing that it has, that I believe it's kind of magical, which is I get up every day and I don't know where it's going to get me. Because I can dream a few things, but then, for example, Celso goes there and someone calls me saying, oh, there's someone here that was involved in technology in Portugal. And if I can, I go there and we start chatting, and I start learning more about Sapo and Aveiro and everything that happened in the 90s and blah, blah. So what I mean is this, it gets out of control in a good way. And then people want to get involved. We are, and just to finalize, we are restoring a thing that was a prototype that Timex did in the 90s, which is in the 80s, sorry, in 86 more or less, which was the TENET, Timex Educational Network, a computer network to use in classrooms for 25 computers with Timex 2048 computers adapt. They were almost selling it for the Chinese railway with 10 million workers, but then Amstrad bought Sinclair, and Amstrad did not allow them to do it, and they couldn't use the ROM from the Sinclair ROM in the computer. So we are redoing this. Why is this happening? Because in the same event that you were, there was a guy there that is now my friend.
Because geeks.
Yeah, Hugo Pinto was there. He saw 2 guys from Timex that, so they worked here in this municipality. They saw 2 guys on the stage, and it was a very emotional moment, telling the stories of what happened. One of them was almost crying about, because everyone refers to it as the best period in their lives. And we look at it and we feel we have the responsibility to preserve this. And this is part of the Portuguese history of technology. So it's even more important. So when you have this product, somehow becomes easier to convince people. Then I'm very persistent, I'm stubborn, to say just a few things like you were referring before. And so I normally don't take no for an answer. And I do one thing regarding to network, which is, I normally say I'm not an expert in anything, but I know who to call when I need something on any area. He referred the artisans. I was a kid, I went to carpenters' places, some others that I don't even know how to say the name in English, to learn. And I know that knowing things helps you a lot. So when you have people, you know what they can do, you start thinking, how can they help you? And I think that's more or less how it...
Yeah, in the demo scene, it's a very interesting phenomenon as well. When I started to know more people, then suddenly I have a whole network of people. Like, I know people who work at Google, I know people who work at, all sorts of different companies that don't make any sense. People who are like more into hardware, people who are more into software, computer security. it opens up a whole world.
Yep.
But going back to the legacy stuff that you mentioned, I've been involved with archiving demoscene stuff for a very long time because I was a bit obsessed with it. We didn't have that much here in Portugal, so I wanted to know more, and I fell down the rabbit hole. And then suddenly the bit rot started happening, and we realized that, okay, someone needs to preserve this somewhere, people are doing a bad job. Where do I want to go with this? At Inércia, I have this vision of building a place that works as a museum for the demo scene. There is nothing being made to preserve the demo scene, like it doesn't, that showcases demo scene. There are some digital archives, there are some data centers somewhere that have a machine with some demo scene productions there, but there's no physical location dedicated to the demo scene. And after visiting the ZX Museum, I thought, we could do something similar to that and focusing on, digital culture. I don't want to just have a museum that is static. I think that's boring. I think what you do and try to get activities in it, it's the right way. And I think if it's presented in the correct light to the city hall, it could be something like what you did in Cantanhede that we could get rolling. They might help us find a space that we can, renovate, whatever, get a few different places, get a spot that we can do workshops, a spot where we can, teach people how to do audio stuff, have a studio there for audio, have a studio for making stuff. I want to get the Makerspace there. I told this guy when I was talking with him, I have this vision. If I get location for this, I want you to transfer that because he has problems with paying the bills where he is. Yep. We get you this space, you have the Makerspace there, and then when people want to use it, it's right there. And there are a lot of people in the demo scene that want to, repair their old computers. Yep. Then you have a workshop there, or you want to build something like a cabinet for something. You have the workshop there. So it makes sense to integrate these different scenes of Makerspace community, hackerspace community, preservation of different things. And I think all these connecting worlds, it makes sense, but it's a bit hard to preserve. It seems like an over-ambitious project. So how do you go about, giving a presentation to get for that with the city hall?
Look,
baby steps?
I wanted to comment what you were saying, so thank you for the opportunity. First, the museum is in Cantanhede by a very simple
because you
reason.
live there.
That's where I was born, that's where I grew up, that's where I live. For me, it would be either Cantanhede or Coimbra were the obvious places. Coimbra because where I study and where I work. Of course, it could be in Almada because if we focus on Timex was here. It could be in Portimão because the first Portuguese game to be sold internationally is Alien Evolution from Portimão. They were some of the most active people, at least in the Spectrum area. We just interviewed them in Lisbon Games Week, Tito and Paulo Carrasco. Tito, that was the founder of Portidata and many other things. But so, trying to answer your question and also commenting what you were saying, because I think all of us face, or several of us face similar challenges, because we are trying to do a technological center in Cantanhede where the museum will be the core, but I also want to have a makers area because it makes sense, like we were just describing. By the way, I don't know if it helps, but in the 70s and in the 80s, as there were no makers as a name, the customers of Sinclair were the hobbyists, which is precisely the same thing, but probably the name is easier for people to understand. And this is a message I wanted to convey, which is, of course, I'm a Spectrum geek. Of course, I'm a collector. But more than that, I said already, I like to see myself as an entrepreneur and as someone that makes things happen. And I think that's very important. Because sometimes you need to be the geek, other times you need to be the businessman and try to be pitching this to some investor or something like that. And I think you need to put them together, all those hats, to be able to make something happen. And so one message is to enlarge the community. I think we need to focus also on the people outside of the community. For example, when I arrived this morning, there was a presentation in Portuguese, because we are in Portugal, for anyone to know about the demo scene. When you were in Lisbon Games Week, that was an example of talking to people that probably are not into the demo scene already. I think that's crucial. The museum only has success if every kid in school knows that, okay, he doesn't know what is a Spectrum, but he knows, oh, in the 80s they did some computers in Portugal. Oh, nice, okay. And what's the relevance of that? Then you can drill down. Because, for example, when people go to the museum, I tell them about the ARM Foundation, which originally meant Acorn RISC Machine, which was started by Chris Curry, the right hand from Clive Sinclair when they did the MK14 before the ZX80. So what I mean is, you can easily find ways to tell people what is the relevance of a 40 years old computer and the impact of it for a cell phone that you have on your pocket and you use to play or whatever you want to do with it. So aim at the don't focus on the niche. I know the niche is what we want to get, but try to do that. Then, answering what you were saying, man, I don't know how I did I don't know how I did or how I have been doing what we have been doing. The fact is, I work very hard. I don't take.
You have the passion for it.
I have the passion. That helps.
That helps you get
I like
up
to
in the morning.
communicate. That facilitates. I like to do pitches and things like that. And I'm kind of crazy, but I use that on a good way, which is I always try to surprise my partners by when they say, let's do this, I aim way higher. And then I have a good thing, which is I have a good network because I invested on it for many years. The fact my career also opens me some doors. Like you were saying, you have people from Google, from everywhere. All of that makes it easier. It wasn't very hard to reach you the first time. I remember, and I never met Celso from anywhere. But the fact is, he answered me. And when I needed something, we spoke about what we could do. So what I mean is, you need to have a plan. You need to think like you're thinking big. If I can help in any way, feel free to ask. For example, the street gaming events we're doing, probably we can start thinking about having a temporary, very temporary exhibition of what is the demo scene there, because it makes sense. It's people that like gaming and those kind of things. So I don't know if I answer your question. I'm talking a lot, and we have many people to talk. But
I'll try to pick up where you left. You were talking about having different hats on. Yeah. The main problem that I see with that is that usually you don't have time or inclination to wear all the different hats. And I will shoot back to João Catarino here. Is one of the main complaints that he has. He has a lot of different projects, all of them very interesting. And then when it comes to submitting proposals.
Yeah, that's my problem. I'm a technician, by the way. Officially, I'm a industrial maintenance technician. That's why I like to put my hands on everything, almost everything. And during my life, I've been doing a lot of, in several works, dismantling turkeys, distributing chicken, whatever. I did a lot of stuff. I was in the Navy. I'm a former sailor. That opened my eyes for something different. I worked a lot. I've been working abroad in Africa, Holland, all over Europe, and I've seen a lot of technology. And I was always a passionate person by technology. And recently, on a boot camp with two American teachers, they were Palestinians. They were talking about Fab Labs and all that stuff, and I discovered that I might have ADHD, which is it's logic for what I start doing from the minute I enter my workshop. I do like 50,000 projects in my mind, but I touch nothing. And that's my biggest issue, deciding what to do, where to start, and what to say. And you may notice that I keep trying to focus while I'm speaking, because I'm imagining several stuff ahead. So one of the big difficulties in managing or running a makerspace is exactly what you're saying. Trying to explain people what is a makerspace, what we do inside, what we do there. And when I try to tell them we do almost everything, they say, you gotta be crazy. Are you going to build a factory? Are you going to build bricks or walls? No, but any other stuff that you use machines. And I say, as long as we have the tool, the machine, or the knowledge, we can build it, we can make it. but still is a very difficult thing to explain.
And that's a good message to tell to the youth. Like they are so accustomed to just consume.
Having everything. That's what I
Yeah.
try. I try to get, like João is saying, I try to get the best of all the two worlds. Working with your hands, making your brain work, because you have to work. I don't tell them just do like this and it's done. No.
Yeah, figure out
I
how
try
it
to
goes.
push them to the limit where their intelligence has to work, their brain has to work. I just don't give them cookies or candies.
Yeah.
I make them do the cookies and the candies.
Yeah, that's why makerspaces are so important. But I think the main struggle that you have is that you're usually like 1, 2, 3 people, and you have all these different projects.
I once had a conversation with a fellow maker from the UK. It was we were talking on Facebook, I think, something about a project or whatever, and he said, "So I see that you're running a makerspace. How many are you there?" And I said, "I'm just one."
Yeah,
and he said,
if you have to do proposals, you have to run
Yeah.
social media, you have to organize projects, you
and
have
he
to do
told
the
me, "You gotta-
projects. It's
you gotta
too
be
many
brave."
hats to wear in your head.
And he told me, "Yeah, we were 5 here, and we couldn't manage to get the makerspace running. We had to give up. And you're doing it by yourself. You got to be brave, man." But it's been
It's
like
not brave. I
6
think it's
years.
passion. It's more passion
It is.
than
Like João.
Yeah.
It's like he says, either you like it or you don't. If you like it, keep struggling, keep fighting, and don't give up. It's hard. You lose most of your life, social life, maybe money also, a
Yep.
lot. And you don't have time for anything else. Just be there. But I think that in time, we learn how to focus on telling people what we do on a makerspace, or what is the use of that makerspace. And when you manage to get their attention and pass the message, I think everything comes with it. It's not easy, I know, but we'll get there.
Celso, how do you try to create or help a lot of the makerspace community here or the making community here in Portugal? So how the hell did, like, it wasn't just you doing it. How did you get a group of people to help you? How did you keep them motivated? How does the project keep running after you have to focus on something else?
Yeah, I wish I had a magical formula to tell you about. Would be nice. But what I can tell you is you can do amazing things with very little resources. And you can also do shitty things with a lot of resources. Both are very possible. And I've been around both scenarios. So thinking that having a lot of resources solves everything is wrong. And thinking that you can't do anything because you don't have the money or the people is also wrong. I'd say, I think it all has been said, but I'll say it again. I think two of the most important things is first you need to have an idea and you need to be passionate about that idea and you need to fight for it. If you don't have that, nothing else works, because even though you might not notice, if you're not doing it for your passion, it will transpire to everyone else. It will transpire to the team, to the sponsors, to the community. Everyone will know it sooner or later. You cannot fake a good idea. It has to be in you. So that's probably the first thing and the most important thing. The second thing is we keep saying hi. I organized. I've done this. I've done that. But it's not about you. I mean, leadership is important. Sometimes you need to have a figure, like a public figure, because in the end you need to talk to sponsors and things like that. But it's 99% about the team that you surround yourself with. And I've done a couple of big events in Portugal. You mentioned Codebits, but we also started organizing the big maker fairs in Portugal blank. Centro de Ciência Viva.
Yeah.
And
How did you get that people? At the time, most of the people that ran Codebits were from Sapo, as
Yeah.
I remember. So you managed to get
Yeah.
an internal synergy that this is an important project to have in Portugal.
turns out that we found that there's a big overlap between the geeks of the internet and the computers and the makers community. I mean, I'm an example of that. I studied electronics. I'm from the time when it was very difficult to build a PCB and source components to do some basic electronics
and now
project.
we have this made in 2 weeks.
And now we can do, I mean, I'm going to talk about how I built a computer a few months ago. So everything's completely different. But there's a big overlap. A lot of the people that are part of the maker community were also part of the computer revolution and the internet. And so because we've been organizing Codebits for a few years now, I was involved with an amazing team already. And I also had partners that I've used with Codebits, and I then invited to be part of the Maker Faire. Then the third thing is the community itself. I think one of the success variables, both in Codebits and the Maker Fairs, is that we've always stayed true to our initial mission. And there will be points in time where you will be tempted to
Deviate, yeah.
to go to the left or to the right, and try to avoid that. Because again, you can ruin everything. You can ruin.
Sometimes it feels like frustrating when you're trying to do your vision, and it doesn't feel like there's enough audience, or the people don't really get it. So you try to shift a little bit to see if you can get a few more.
Yeah.
But people then start double questioning.
So I'll give you an
what you're doing.
example. You need money from sponsors, right?
Yeah.
And they'll come to you and they'll say, I'll give you some money if you do this change for me, or if you do this for me. Because that's the way I think I'll get value from my sponsorship. And it's a hard decision for you because you need the money.
You did a little bit of that at the Pixelscamp, like the hackathons that you had were like a bit corporate sponsored and corporate centric.
I'm gonna tell you a secret I never told in public.
Okay.
So I organized Codebits and Pixelscamp for, I don't know, 10 years. And we've done 4 or 5 maker fairs. And we've never been profitable. Never. We lost money every time. And we had big sponsors. And we're talking about...
It was free entrance.
We're talking about hundreds of thousands of euros in sponsorships. And we lost money every time. The only year we were about to make money, Carlos is over there, he can confirm. The only year we were about to make money, COVID happened. We were already celebrating. So yeah, it's very hard. But if you stay true to your vision, that will help you. That will help you get sponsors. That will help you build the community. That will help you having more people coming to the events, because again, they will see that you're doing this for them. You're doing this for the community. If you go adrift because you make concessions to get sponsorships and stuff like that, it's going to be harder in the long term for you.
Okay, let's try to circle back to the demo scene. I guess, FRaNKy, this one is for you. On the demo scene, we always have a lot of keep it underground mentality. Don't take any sponsors, because then we'll be connected, which is similar to what Celso was saying. Then we will lose our vision, or they'll try the forces, or they'll run a Wolverine compo, or they'll want us to run a Wolverine compo, which will be silly. And stuff like that. But at the same time, we do need some way to finance the whole structure, especially for bigger parties, smaller parties as well. So it's pretty much traversal. So I get what is my question exactly? I agree that we need to be careful with sponsorships, but we do need to get the money from somewhere. So What do you think about all of that?
Well, first of all, I can relate in all the demo parties I've organized over the years, the smaller ones. One was profitable, so it is a thing. We used our network to get the venue at a substantial discount.
Free venues are always very good for profitability.
Yes, because that's where the main money goes to. But then sponsorship in the demo scene, I think that today we've come to the realization that it is hard to do anything without it. And of course you have to make good agreements, you know, will you get a beam slide, will you can put a banner up, will you be, you know, mentioned in a thank you. Those are all good arrangements you have to make up front. The crazy time as to stick the name of a graphics card manufacturer on a helicopter and have some fun are sadly behind us.
I think I remember that.
Who knows? Was on a mountain somewhere in Germany. But no, it's...
That being said, I wouldn't mind get sponsorship from NVIDIA, get free cards and.
Oh yeah, no.
So
please.
NVIDIA, if someone's watching, please contact us in Inércia Demo Party. We run the largest real-time shader community, real-time event. Everyone is abusing your graphics cards. Yep. Please sponsor us. We'll put the beam slide up.
Exactly. No, with all sponsorship, and there, as you also mentioned, the demo scene network helps to get the sponsorships where you don't have to explain what the demo scene is to a...
Yeah, I think most sponsorships that we get is usually companies from demo sceners.
From demo sceners, or they are founded by demo sceners, or they work there, or they can explain internally, hey, this is a thing that could help. And what seems to help is that you can get some kind of recruitment hook into it. Certainly for the larger events, is like, hey, you can do, you have 3D artists, you have graphicians, you have musicians, you have developers that are used to working under crazy deadlines and stress while drunk. That's your pool to get to. And some people do go into, okay, sure, let's see if we can find, you know, a few people in there to help us internally. And through that hook, it seems to work, although you are limited in the sponsorship pool that you are going to. I don't know if anybody has, you know, managed to get sponsorship from, like, you know, the Nintendos of the world there, because hey, we have a game combo.
Yeah, you have so many layers to reach the top management to approve it. It's too much work. So it's too much emails, too much it's the social networking that he was talking about. But you need to be on the phone every day, and some people just don't have the patience for doing that when you just want to organize an event once a year. Like, it's too time consuming. Rory, what's your take regarding Sundown, Sunrise, Nova? How the hell did you manage sponsorships? How do you go about it? Have you ever made a profit?
Yeah, actually, a couple of years. Yeah, so been very lucky because the hall that we hire is quite cheap. So it's only like £400 or £500.
It's also in the middle of nowhere.
It is in the middle of nowhere.
Which is a plus point, I guess, at the end of the day.
We've had sponsorships in the past, but we've never... it's been NVIDIA, and they never asked us to do anything different. They were just like, yeah, have some graphics cards.
I want that. I want your contact.
Yeah, it was like 15 years ago.
Oh, man. They don't work there anymore.
Yeah, the glory days. So honestly, what I tend to do is... if anyone can't afford to go, I'll just say you don't have to pay. If you can afford, there's like a standard fee. And then I say if you've got, you know, spare cash, you can pay more to come in, and we'll just put it towards like running the event. And what we've done over the years is we started by hiring equipment, and every time we had any excess money, we'd buy like projectors and more equipment. So it's been almost 20 years now, so we've actually got like a nice stock of hardware.
Where do you stock it? Do you have a hardware, a space that you put everything in?
It's like Hoffman's shed.
Ah.
But no, like it's spread around the place kind of thing. So most of the equipment we have is spread amongst organisers, and we all pull it together. We still hire some equipment, and some of our organisers like Graham, he's really passionate about lasers, and he just
Oh yeah,
basically
I saw those shows.
Yeah, he brings all of his own kit, so it's just kind of like, thank you, appreciate that. Oh yeah. Don't forget, Intel make graphics cards now, so they're probably desperate for some attention. So,
Yep, that will work. We just need more contact. The main problem with reaching these bigger companies is that the contact that you used to have now no longer works there, because in 1 year they might go somewhere else, and then you need to re-establish the network all over again. So it becomes a bit tiresome. Even with city halls, sometimes you have that problem because every 4 or 5 years they change. So. Or they might change, and then you need to re-establish those connections. How is your connection with the city hall at your location? I guess it's pretty good.
every time I turn up, the lady who runs the hall gives me a big hug. So it does help.
So I think in small cities, it's a bit easier to organize a demo party because they want you to bring the tourism and activity there.
I think where we run our party, the local council actually evangelize us, and actually the people that run the hall say, we really like these guys, we like what they do, they're no trouble. I've tried to go to bigger cities, and there's like, oh, we insist that you have 2 security guards on site for all the time, and it's like, that's going to cost like half the budget for the party, and it's like, there's no way we can do that. So often there's so much stipulations and expectations that it makes it economically completely unviable, especially when you don't know how many people are going to turn up. Yeah. So we're really like in a lucky position with the parties that I run, because it's a really established setup that we had. And the reason why it happened is because there was LAN parties that were taking place in the same venue, and it only happened because I thought, well, this could work for a demo party, and it did. So we've stuck with that, and we've been really lucky. But I'd encourage anyone who wants to run a party just to do it. Like, just to don't fear any of these kind of barriers. If you persevere, you will network, show enthusiasm, and you get enough people sort of wanting to help out. And I think, you know, the UK is like, we've got Field Effects now. They've run a few events, and they just made it happen. You just start, and then you iterate and get better and better, collect equipment. But I do find that there's so much collective enthusiasm in the broader demo scene. If there's anything you need to get over the line, someone's going to help you there. If you need a compo box, if you need networking, all that kind of stuff, it's all there. So much experience out there as well.
I think I completely agree with that. That helped at Inércia a lot. But at the same time, we're getting older, less demo sceners. So that goes to the next part of this question. How do we get new people in? Like, if we keep embracing, you're going to answer this, I guess. If we keep trying to do the same thing that we did with the old people, we need to find a way to get new people in. And I think we can all agree in terms of demo scene, the numbers have been slowly dwindling, and we need to find ways to get new demo sceners in. Do you want to try to answer that before I pass to Manuel?
Well, I was going to say, you want to speak to the people who you're bringing in, so absolutely. I mean, what I'd say is that everyone's got like a very kind of like mixed perception of the demo scene. It might be a little bit myopic at times, where you have someone of a certain generation who can be a bit too pure about their expectations to say, like, if you go to a retro gaming event, you will get someone like folding their arms and looking at Jet Set Willy on a Spectrum. And then for me, I'm kind of like, I really do not
I already saw that.
Yeah, it's like, I really don't want to see that game ever again. I want to see, what are you doing new with this old platform kind of thing. Yeah. So it's always got to be about forward looking, but also, if you want to cultivate an interest in it, you can't rely on like your old man enthusiasm. You have to sort of say, what can this bring for you? And I'd sort of say that there's a novel concept of mastering a complete computing environment where you've got complete control down to the lowest level. So it becomes like an area of fascination. But also, you can bring contemporary art into that with regards to trends in art, music, all this kind of stuff. So you can bring any kind of modern genres and say, look what I've done in such a small space. So yeah, you have to, another thing I'd sort of say is that you have to orient yourself to where people are consuming content. So we can't say, I don't agree with releasing invite demos. I think, you know, you're giving someone an executable file. It's like where you're not going to where someone is. So I'd say you want to be on Twitch. So you've got Hoffman and Ferris, yourself doing YouTube. It's like, this is where your audience is. You need to go there. And you need to be really explicit. What's a value there, and what someone can experience at these events and the subculture. Because if we just do invite demos and sort of
Yeah, it can be hard to explain the demo scene culture to these new people that they're just watching a speed run of a game, and then suddenly a couple guys talking about something on an old computer that is it a game? What the hell are they talking about? So I think we have a bit of a barrier where we need to contextualize what the demo scene is, and at the same time try to open it up as we are trying to rebrand Inércia a little bit to call it a festival of arts and music. Yeah. And I think that might be the way to go. But then I'm scared of what you said about, you might be shifting your vision with that slight rebranding. Because at the core, we still want to have a demo party. I think essentially both me and Genio, we want to come here and not do anything. And everyone else do it for us. And just be an event that we come here to enjoy and watch demos and enjoy the music and have fun. Where am I going with this? Diverging things sometimes might help to get other, like connecting, doing the bridges between different scenes helps a lot. And I think we've seen that organically happen within the demo scene and the maker community, demo scene and hackerspaces. Very easily on the hackerspaces, there have been satellite screenings of demo parties and stuff like that. And I think it's one of the ways that you can reach more audience that could be your target audience, is to expose what the demo scene and those different communities, like go to your local makerspace, go to your local hackerspace, game dev community, different kind of arts stuff, and try to find those communities that might have an interest on the demo scene, explain to them what the demo scene is, come to our demo party and show it, or come to our demo scene channels and show your stuff. You want to talk about the game dev perspective in all this?
Yes, thank you. I think that is the right approach. That is close to what I was about to say. It's a couple of things. First one is, yeah, I see this in games all the time. You have people entering games, but people leaving games, and you just need to make sure there's more people entering than leaving. So one thing is, this is why I agree with the executable point. You need to be where people aren't looking for you. They need to be able to bump into you. Right now, I feel like social media services are kind of imploding. So
yes.
There isn't one I would recommend.
Yeah, facepalm,
right.
The dead bird. Where are you? You're not going to post there. Instagram also changes just stuff that only lasts 24 hours.
So my two main tips are introduce the demo scene, or prepare something that introduces the demo scene without jargon, so people could understand it even if they don't understand what's going on. They could watch them as beautiful music videos or animations. I would suggest trying to show demos at, for example, the comic book festival that happens every year, because it plays as well as a short film. And then, if people are interested and they want to know more about it, they would be more receptive to understanding what is behind it. And the other thing is, and this has worked really well for both video games and board games, regular events. Regular events that people can bump into even if they don't know, and regular enough that people don't need to see a post on social media to remind themselves that it's going to happen. So for board games, we used to have regular playtesting sessions. I think it was once every month. In another country, it was once every 2 weeks. And then, because it was so regular, I didn't really have to plan for it. It wasn't a surprise. I knew it was there if I was free. And I think that helped even for people that participated to explain it to other people. They just say, this is how often it happens. If you're not ready for this one, maybe you can go to the next one.
Where did you organize that? Because I think the location for those regular events is critical.
Yes.
I tried to organize before here in Portugal at the place where I was working, and I would have to talk with everyone on Discord to ping them to come, and this week a couple of people would come. Like I got back together with Paulo, because I see him there, with Paul Falcon. He came to one of those. Next week Hugo would come, next week Chernobyl would come, but it would be people who already are in the demo scene. So
right, and this is, I think, one thing that one advantage that games have over something like the demo scene, which is you need playtesters. You regularly have one person showing up with the game, but they would need players, so they would invite people, and people would show up hoping to playtest something, even if they didn't know what it was. They knew there would be games there would be something to do. The places where we did these things, here in Portugal or in Lisbon, we had it at the restaurant, like the food hall in Alvaláxia. Just a bunch of tables and chairs that no one was in at that point. They were okay with that. We used to run that, I think, from 7 in the evening until 11 or 12 when it closed.
Until they kicked you out.
Yeah. And it was on Tuesday, so people had to work the next day as well. In Dublin, we used to do that either in cafes or in pubs. In Ireland, everything is in a pub, so that was our main option.
There were a lot of, like in the demo scene, we had a lot of pub meets, and it sort of works, but you don't need to have a good connection. You want a public space, but then not the public space. You need to find the right pub where you have, interesting community, like a digital art sort of oriented community.
Yes. One thing that impressed me a lot the first time I went to Germany was I saw demos being projected on the side of a building when I left the train station. I wasn't there for the demo scene, but it could have been my introduction to the demo scene if I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, they do it in Finland as well. They had what's we call demo wall, I think was called.
That was really cool.
Yeah.
And I think that's one way to get people's attention, even again, if they don't understand what is causing it, they might just go over and ask.
We need to brainstorm of a place in Lisbon where we can project on a wall that everybody will see. That would be a cool thing. Anyone knows any place in Lisbon where we could project on a wall?
Or even things. This sounds small and maybe like maybe like a tangent, but I've seen a lot of streams or events where sometimes they need something to play while there isn't something big on the main screen. If there were some video presentations or some specific demos with a proper tag on the corner so that people could find more information, that would be another way.
Yeah, and give some flyers at the same time on the street level, yeah.
So surprise people who aren't looking for it, because otherwise you will end up with the most niche community. They will be experts, but also they will be a bit off-putting for someone new to join because they're the only new people there.
Yeah. I'm going to throw it back to you because you do something similar with the repair cafes. So you have a lot of random people showing up and you try to organize them on public places.
I've been doing repair cafes with a Portuguese name, Café Concerto, since 2018. And the struggle was always explain people, this is a free event. People can come and try to repair. We will get some experts or maybe curious people who just know how to dismantle a toaster or a coffee machine.
It's easier to do it together, instead of just doing it at home alone.
Just a community event, and it's difficult to explain people that it's free. You pay nothing. We will just help you. In worst case scenario,
then they expect you to fix it for them, and they just sit there and look at you.
At the beginning, there were some people interested. You were one of the show ups.
I try to find broken stuff that I haven't had time to fix. I'll go there. I will finally fix it.
That's how we met. He started as a participant, and then he ended up as a volunteer. And that's very good because we get the community together. But we have also to explain, and that's one of the things that I focus. Like you said, it's a community, something you like. And if you focus too much on the internet, on the social media, you won't get too many people because a repair cafe
have a local presence.
It serves not only as gathering people, getting to know each other from the community, but also to help elder people. And that was one of my goals, getting the elder people from the surroundings, from the neighborhood, and people with less money to buy stuff, and help them get their stuff repaired. This year I got an arrangement with the municipality. They hired, they paid for 8 repair cafes, so I had to change the name for a more international name. But the meaning and the objective and the goal is the same, repairing stuff so that we can fight the program obsolescence. So we started very good in one open air event. Everybody who were in the market, they just were curious. Oh, that's very good, that's very fine, but it didn't last long. I had the last events. I had like one person showing up. Because there was no. The thing is not that they
The one
don't
that was
care.
down by the docks.
Where you were with your wife and your kid the last time.
Oh, that's a very good location. Like it's a very big.
Yeah. But the problem is that there are too many events showing up at the same time, and people have to decide: shall I go party? Shall I go see something that I like, or will I take this thing from home to repair? Maybe next time. So that's what they do.
You need like a guerrilla team to be on the streets
and the problem is that the
explain what's
volunteers.
happening.
I ended up being the only volunteer there, and I'm not that good in electronics or repair stuff. I do know how to fix probably a coffee machine or do a diagnose on a toaster or something like that, but I'm not that good.
You know how to measure voltage, though. You
yeah,
helped me
at
fix
least.
my lamp. You know
Yeah,
more
at
electronics than I do.
But the thing is, try to focus on the community. And I was paying attention to your conversation, of course. One of the things that I just popped up on my mind was, why not use the education or the demo scene as an education tool?
Yeah, that's what we want to do. We want to give workshops on learning how to code graphics programming, on how to do music,
And
how
that's
to
why
draw
that's how
art.
I've
That's
learned-
the main venue that we want.
That's how I learned. In 2019, we had this meeting with schools, and we found out that in Barcelona, the faculty there, they tested something different. Kids from the regular school that didn't manage to go to the final to study, they sent them to professional studies. So some of those kids, they managed to finalize the education, but some of them they didn't. So they picked those kids and sent them to a Fab Lab, try to learn with a Fab Lab with Fab Lab tools. And they saw that some kids, they learn easier with those technological tools than with a professional one. And we got to a point where maybe using these new technology tools is a good way to start doing regular school and not being something particular from the hacker space or the maker space.
I think some professional schools already have that kind of lenience.
They do. I've seen some professional schools with Arduinos, for instance, building robots with Arduinos and using
I have to say this, at FCT, we had some interns that were finished engineering there, and they had never coded an Arduino. How can you be 5 years in a degree in electronics and never code an Arduino? So I'm scared for the future of,
Well,
that really scared me.
I deal with Arduinos and microcontrollers every
Yeah,
day, and I don't know how to code.
Yeah.
I managed to change pieces of code from a sketch to another and adapt it to what I want to do. But honestly, I never made a code just to light
But they didn't have a class. They didn't have a class where they gave him and say, do something with this. How is this possible? Like they have all this theoretical stuff, and they don't do hands-on with the most basic electronics things that everybody uses on the making
But
community.
on the other hand, I've seen that kids are learning coding with, I don't remember the language, but it's not Python, but it's
C++ or C?
No, something
JavaScript?
different. Java, I think it's JavaScript. And maybe some of them, they use Scratch, which is a good tool to
Scratch
teach.
is very good to teach. Celso has a good stories about Scratch, don't you?
I wish I could do it.
So actually, I can ask you this about, is Scratch a good way to get people involved like early on to I know your kids use Scratch and loved Scratch to do stuff and learn computing out of that. Do you think that is the way to get the new generation involved in, doing computer art stuff?
I mean, I think any tool that lowers the barrier.
Because in demo scene, a lot of people look down upon Scratch. They see, that's only for learning. Then you can't do anything with that. And then people will get stuck with Scratch. They won't go to the C++. They won't know what a pointer is ever in their lives.
I think the people that look down on tools like Scratch are people like me.
They're already old. They're not new people.
That either are very old or they've been around other frameworks for doing the stuff that they want to do. But I think any tool that lowers the barrier for someone to join a community or learn about something, and then they can explore other tools after that. But any tool that lowers that barrier is a good tool, and Scratch is a very good example of that. We tried to bring Scratch to Portugal many years ago. I wouldn't say we were very successful. Scratch was also in a very early stage at the time. I think it's now a completely different tool, much more successful, and it works with everything. And
No,
I think
it's mostly for the web.
It came with the Raspberry Pi, I think was...
no. I think
First time I saw it was...
no. In the beginning, it was all about software, and then they did a couple of partnerships. One of them with Lego. And you could actually control the Mindstorms with Scratch scripts. And I think now you can integrate Scratch with pretty much everything.
With the Raspberry Pi, because the Raspberry Pi Foundation was advertising to teach kids to code, because
Yeah.
it's what providing
Could be.
a microcomputer.
I haven't been around Scratch lately, to be honest. But let me give you one advice for the demo scene. As I've done some demos back in the day in assembly, like bouncing balls.
I was trying to get your Commodore 64 invitation into CSDB.
Yeah.
I couldn't get it. I know the admins of CSDB,
Oh, you do?
but they're still, no, it's hard. You need to be an active demo scener to be able to insert a new entry into
Oh, really?
CSDB.
Yeah.
I know the guy. I help him move, and they still haven't added. I'm like,
Yeah.
come on, the only C64 sceners in Portugal that we know, add this.
So my daughter was supposed to be here with me today because she's 19 and she's studying computer engineering.
Wow, cool.
Surprise. It was actually a surprise for me. Anyway, what she wants to do in life is find an intersection between computers and arts.
That's
Right?
what we do. Demo scene, baby.
That's what you do. But I think, and don't take this personally, but I think your community tendentially goes after computer folks and technology folks and people.
We try to change that a little bit.
Yeah.
So tell us from your perspective how we could make the event a little bit more welcoming.
So I think coding is hard, and coding demos is even more hard because it's a visual concept and it involves creativity and things like that. So I think you should be talking to the arts people the more you can, and find ways to build bridges between the computer world that you know better and the artistic world that probably don't know how to deal with computers or might not.
I actually have a couple of friends. Actually, I knew them from the maker community. Do you want to add something to that?
I want to quickly jump on the topic, because when I look at the list of competitions here, nothing fast, nothing graphics, nothing music. You're focusing on size coding, which is the hardest thing to do, even on a fantasy computer, which is even more obscure. So if you want to get people in, you have to have more accessible things that they can partake in, and then having their entry submitted, seeing it on the big screen is like, oh wow, I can do this too. I'm growing, but indeed, as my friend in the cool Moss t-shirt is saying, sorry I forget names, if you want to look at this event particular, open up the compos for non-demo sceners, because I have no entry because I am no size coder. I am not a demo coder. Like if there was a photo compo, I could do something. Sadly, I can. Showcases are not compos. You are about compos and stuff. So
This is an important thing. We try to switch from the traditional competitions thing in the demo scene, which is very culturally, like the demo scene is all about the competitions, like it's creatives, it fuels people to want to try to win and make the best thing ever. And we at Inércia think that it's slightly misconceived, because a lot of people just want to participate and not be judged upon. So that was the concept behind the showcases.
I see your concept, but you should know by now that if you're taking part in a demo competition to win it, that's with the wrong intentions. Like it is the path of creation.
But I know now because
is-
I've been
is-
around
is
for
more
20 years. But if I was a newcomer, I wouldn't know that. So I would be afraid
not-
to submit.
I'm not really so sure about that. Have you asked?
When I talk with them, they tell me, "Oh, I haven't never submitted a demo because I would never
well,
do."
and that's the thing that if I'm evangelizing one thing, it is just release it. Don't make it perfect to start to win the competition. If you haven't, you have an entry. You made something.
Yeah.
Release it. Put it out. Stop perfectionizing it up to the wazoo, because then you will never finish it, and you will only get demotivated because you get angry at yourself because you think you're becoming a failure, and that is indeed something that has to be avoided.
I agree completely, but what we try to do with the showcases is that we open the avenue, and I think maybe for next year we'll have showcases about runtime executable stuff as well, and maybe just have a single competition just for demos, for traditional sake, and try to have we have all these different categories that you can submit stuff in, and it will all be shown on the showcase. So either if you're a new person or if you're a veteran, it always has a benefit. If you're a new person, you are showing what you do without being judged on the scale of being compared to the others directly in terms of numbers that will depress you. And if you're a veteran, you don't have to battle for the name voting of things. So that's what we're trying to do. Is a little bit change, and it was a bit confusing for some demo sceners that were used to the competitions format exclusively. That sounds, there's no competitions for graphics this year. Yeah, you can submit to the graphics showcase. So yeah, I get your point. And I'm afraid, again, that we might be deviating a little bit from the original demo scene. But at the same point, I feel that it's a bit more welcoming, and it's a shared feeling with Genio as well. And we had long talks about this.
It could be then a language barrier, because for me, showcase is like, we're going to look at things which have been done earlier.
But that's wrong. It's showcase for original material only.
And that's the language barrier that we're on.
Maybe we need to find. We were brainstorming what would be the best name for this. Like premiere? We're going to premiere some graphics? Yeah, that wouldn't work either. We ended up with showcase, but maybe we need to revise
maybe look for other naming conventions, but I know that's not easy.
Mm-hmm. And also, going back to other communities, on the animation festivals circuit, like when you have festivals dedicated for showing new movies, they usually show movies that are already being released. They have maybe a year of doing the different tours, and then maybe it gets open to the public, maybe for sale, maybe on some stuff. So they have a different mentality, and demoscene is very interesting in that regard, that we only have original stuff at the demo party, and we barely show demos that happened before. Sometimes we have a demo show between here and then that shows stuff that happened, but it's mostly focused on new material. And for people from the outside art, this is like, what? Like, I already have my art made, can't I just present? No, it needs to be new. And it's a bit boggling and a bit of a door that kind of makes it a bit harder for entering, which we should try to accommodate a little bit. Microphone there.
Thank you. This is where I think there's some learnings from the game community as well, because when I see a lot of the big demo productions, I know they've taken months that I wouldn't have had. So why? If it's like a week before the demo party, is there something else I could do and present? You know the answer is yes. But if I know that all those things took months, to me, the answer is maybe no. So one thing that the game community does that I think could be helpful for something like the demo scene is game jams. And the idea is, you won't be preparing it for months. You will do it in 1 or 2 days. It won't be perfect. No one else's entries will be perfect. And it kind of gives you, it feels more achievable to know that no one has huge expectations for the thing you'll deliver.
We used to have fast compos, which was announced at the beginning of the party, and you would do your production throughout the party. We sort of killed that because we wanted those productions to be on the main demo competition. But maybe with the showcases, it might make some sense to have fast compos again. Yeah,
some sort of environment where new people wouldn't feel like they need to compete with experts and veterans. Yeah, definitely. But you still have some benefit if you already know the tools.
But maybe if you, I think some parties done this, like give a workshop in the beginning, and then you have a theme, and you can do some stuff, you know, with the knowledge that you're taking and learn this a little bit about this tool. Now you can do something in this theme during the next 24 hours or something.
That sounds
like
really good.
Yeah, so I think that's one approach. Going back to, can I just quickly say something about the arts school? Because we do have a contact there. They helped me organize one of the inertias, or two of the inertias that we had up north that works at the digital, not the digital arts, the Bellas Arts University here. We even went there to give a talk about what the demo scene is to some of their students. And they were like, yeah, this is amazing. Are you going to a demo party? No. So they find it curious, they find it interesting, but then I'm not going to learn programming. I don't really know if I would be able to submit that. So it's a bit.
You should present it in a way that it's not about programming. Just find an angle.
Yeah.
And be persistent. It talked about persistence a lot.
And what Manuel said, and you were in a game jam recently that we helped to organize in Marvila, I think it makes sense because if you start doing it like you do a small game in a weekend, you start getting people that are more focused on the art part, on the arts part, that can get into the experience, and then it's much harder to say, I don't want to go back. So even if you're not an expert programming, you may, because of the arts part, you may want to be involved, and you start creating teams. And I think, and hearing you guys, and I'm a little bit outside of this, so hearing you a lot, you keep talking, I don't misinterpret, but too much about competition. So the competition is the focus. Probably it's the focus for the guys that are already here. But
For
now
30
you need
years in the demo scene, it was the focus. Like
Yeah.
Demo scene, we go there to win the competition. To go there to be number one, to make the
Yeah.
best demo. So it's all like,
Look, and
we
I'm
have compos. We are like, at the revision, we have 30 compos, something like that. Because everything is a compo.
I'm competitive, so I know what it's like, and that's
a
how
lot
I
of
live
people-
my life. But
a
to
lot of people
engage
in the
other
demo scene
people, we can't. We need to be more to facilitate, to remove the barriers in the beginning. We need to do
A
it.
lot of people in the demo scene started complaining about that and stopped participating in some of the competition because it's always the same name that wins. And I just submit something and get last place, and it became a bit demoralizing to some people. And then we always have the same thing. Oh, the demo scene is dying. We have less people now, which is a bit of a lie, because Revision still has the same number of people who has. There are still small parties happening all over Europe, even in Japan. Japanese scene is bigger than ever. US scene has free demo parties happening every year, which wasn't happening in the 90s. So demo scene is not dying. It is shifting. I think we can agree with that. Maybe you want to add some to that, FRaNKy or Roddy?
I'll do one. No, it is the on the less is more. You have the big events as Revision, where of course everybody shows up. But what I noticed is that at Revision I have no time to talk to anybody. It is you come in, you hug, you say hey I'm busy, and you walk off, and you spend 2 seconds with someone and then you're off. And it is these smaller outreach events where you get time to sit down to people and you can say, hey, I'm doing this, maybe we can do something together.
Yeah, it's a different party experience,
It is completely different, and therefore this certainly has its place, and it's also good that there have been years in the 90s where you had a Mega Symposium, you had assembly, you had a thing in Norway, and that was more or less it, and the smaller parties didn't exist. And therefore, it is okay. You must have the travel budget to go to all the places, but it is indeed good that there are now so much smaller events, 40, 50, 60, 100 people, where you actually have the time to sit down and explain people what you're doing. They explain to you what they're doing, and that can then get to collaboration. It's like, we don't find new members for our group at Revision. That doesn't work, never. Unless they come to the beer machine. But like for here, yeah, sure. If somebody says, hi, I can do something, let's talk.
Okay, I'm gonna open up to if anyone has questions from the audience that they want to ask one of the members. If anyone wants to add anything to what we've been talking about, any particular insight? Aldroid has a question. I'll give you a mic. Hold on.
Hello. So, if I was to use an analogy for like other kinds of art, if you're starting out as, say, an artist or a filmmaker, then you've probably got some clear idea of the people that you look up to, the great artists you admire, or like filmmakers or whatever, and when you pick up your mobile phone, you imagine you're Steven Spielberg. You've got something to work towards, and you're inspired by them. And I think there's a huge amount of something we haven't really mentioned so much in this talk, because it's been very directed towards the newcomers, is the sheer amount of amazing talent and amazing work that really is what draws you in and inspires you in the demo scene. And we've got this great opportunity to rub shoulders with people who have done so much. And obviously, in terms of how that's come across in the demo scene, there's been sort of some accusations of elitism, and so there's this sense that you turn up, you compete, and obviously this goes back to problems with competition. You're there for the first time, and you're taking that same step, and I personally think it's fine to be blown out of the water by an ASD demo, but there's obviously some part of that journey which you've got in, you've made your first demo. It's no longer, it's no longer the welcoming environment. You're now in the Dragon's Den, and I guess what I would like the perspective on is how to maintain that level of, awe-inspiring, sort of bringing the amazing stuff that the demo scene does to newcomers and making them feel like they're going to be the Steven Spielberg, equivalents, giving them something to aim for and to want to better and to learn from, without making it exclusive, which has, always been a little bit of a criticism, I think.
Thank you. Anyone from the panel wants to give their insights on this?
Hello. So, Aldroyd's a very good friend of mine, so hello. I mean, one thing I think about that is that you've got a really nice sort of outreach and newcomer thing, and you're sort of saying about the midpoint where you're past the welcoming party and now you're in the middle of things. I do think that having newcomer awards is usually quite good. One thing I'd say about elitism is that I think probably there is some catchments from the older days when it was like, teenagers in the 90s that were very competitive, so there'd be a lot of kind of like, awkwardness with that kind of thing. But from my perspective, like I don't code. I just sign a few forms and people turn up. But what I found is that if you manage to speak to the people that you really admire, as long as there's not too much of a language barrier, they're actually really open to talk to you about things, the making of demos and the technologies they use. A shared enthusiasm is often enough to keep you motivated. And then once you've got yourself over the line, you can sort of say, I've submitted something, I've shown something. And you can talk to people about that and say, oh yeah, I reckon I saw this, and you'll make a name for yourself. So I think it's really down, like, there's a certain amount of motivation that you have to maintain for yourself. But also I think once you've broken the ice on that one, you start talking with other people on the same journey as you, that you can grow in that way. So it's both the creation of the art itself, but also I think the demo scene really is very sociable as well. So if you can sort of do that at the same time, you'll find that motivating because you'll have a shared journey with other people that are learning at the same time, in my opinion.
Okay. We're running out of time, sadly, an hour and a half. So let's cut this short. Anyone has any last thoughts? Otherwise, I'm gonna. Okay, Manuel, you're gonna wrap things up.
Yes, this is very quick. It's just something that came to mind with stuff, especially because you mentioned Spielberg. I loved watching making ofs, the extras in DVDs that you can't find anymore in streaming services. And that gave me an insight of how those movies get made. It looks complicated, but if you start understanding it, it's not as complicated. I see that for games too. Sometimes there's post-mortems. I think I've only seen that for one demo.
There are some, especially for big ones. Sometimes they are in write-up format, which is not very convenient, but there are some people who actually do either a video or what's it called? What was the word that Conspiracy gave it to them? That they show the camera behind it, that without post effects and with post effects, so you get the idea on how it was done. So there are a few, not as many as I wish there were.
Making those easier to find would help, I think.
Yeah. Come watch, I have this thing called the demoscene report, monthly report. I list them all there, so just follow my YouTube channel.
I've watched several of them. I think it's very useful. But it's that type of thing. Someone new goes to Poet and gets lost.
Yeah, that's the vacuum that I try to fill, is that thing. We're really out of time. Gino is giving me some hand gestures, so thank you very much for coming, everybody. And I think in a few minutes we will have the Nintendo 64 demo show. So Boo, please try to set stuff up here. So take a little break and we'll be right back.